Let's talk about the Ukraine war here for a second before you glaze over. It's getting serious, even more so. Now, there was a statement made a couple of weeks ago by the boss of the United Nations. Now, normally we wouldn't bring this to you at all, let alone front and centre, but this was worrying. Remember, this is sort of the guy going around the world saying, more peace, please. He said this.
I fear the world is not sleepwalking into a wider war. I fear it's doing so with its eyes wide open.
And why wouldn't people conclude that when Joe Biden, upon the brave visit to Ukraine, Sean Penn went twice and brought an Oscar with him, settle down, he turned up and he said this, of course, in Poland.
A dictator bent on rebuilding an empire will never be able to ease the people's love of liberty. Brutality will never grind down the will of the free. And Ukraine will never be a victory for Russia. Never.
Sounds like me at the pub just before they start flicking the lights on and off.
After midnight when you said the wife you'd be home.
In Biden's brain, it's always closing time, all right? It's always closing time. But here's the thing.
Yes.
On top of this, the United States has told us. China, who have previously said that they will back up Russia, are now talking about potentially doing to the Russian side of things what the West is doing for the Ukrainian side of things, which means sending bullets and bombs. Have a look.
We are very concerned that China is considering providing lethal support to Russia in its aggression against Ukraine, and I made clear that that would have serious consequences in our relationship as well, something that President Biden has shared directly with President Xi on several occasions.
And if that hasn't got your attention, Russia today pulled out of the remaining peace pacts that they have with the United States about nuclear weapons.
What's important is that our relations have degraded. The responsibility for that is fully on the United States. They can't be silly people. They want to deliver us a strategic defeat while crawling into our strategic nuclear objectives. Regarding this, I have to say that Russia suspends its participation in the New START treaty.
Not small stuff.
No.
China is now going to apparently, the president will go and meet with Putin, hopefully to talk things down, but will he be talking about arming them up? From the UN to the US president to the president of Russia. That's all. That's everyone on the front line, right?
If you believe that Xi Jinping is going to go into Russia and broker peace talks with Ukraine, you'd believe that we're going to have $275 taken off our power bills and that Labor's not going to touch our superannuation.
Yes!
Look, it is terrifying. It is terrifying, but I can't see the benefit to China of going in militarily to support Russia. They are emboldened by a weakened Russia. I don't think it helps them. And the longer this war goes on, the more America puts into it, the better positioned they are for eventually what they hope to do, which we all know is coming, which is absolutely terrifying. But China here, the Chinese Communist government is completely hypocritical here. They put out that 5-page diatribe that reminded me of something from Jerry Maguire, except his, I think he wrote his on drugs and drunk, and it made more sense than this. But what really got me with this whole situation and the Chinese Communist Party coming out and saying that the American media is being controlled by the American government. And look, we know that there's a fair portion of the American media that is very lefty and very, how would you put it, generous to Biden. But there's a lot of other voices out there that are very critical of the American media. Did you see Putin's speech and the way the Russian media reported on that? It was unbelievable and terrifying. And if they are an extension of what the Russian people actually believe, and that is that Russia is defending itself and that Ukraine and the West started this war, it is terrifying. The Chinese Communist Party, they're bonkers, but I can't imagine they would go in and support Russia.
And I mean, the projection about state-owned media, which is Russia, which is China, which is how they echo and send their little messages. But again, I don't want to overplay the UN, right? But the UN is normally the one saying we're this close to peace. They're now saying we're this close to war.
Yeah, no, a really prominent historian, and others have as well, a few people have made the observation, but have said that basically the global dynamic at the moment is extremely similar to what it was just before the outbreak of World War I. So you've basically gone from a bipolar global order where you had the USSR and the USA basically forming some kind of counterbalance to each other, so that there was and there was almost some kind of stability in that. And we know that we've enjoyed what's called the long peace, and then you have mutually assured destruction. What's really dangerous is when all those power balances start to shift, when you have a great power on the rise, like China, like Germany in the 19 teens, and another great power in decline, you might say, like the UK. So that's when you start to get really scary stuff. China obviously doesn't necessarily want to hitch its wagons to Putin's failure, but they wouldn't necessarily see it like that. I think they probably would see an opportunity to make Russia almost a client state of theirs.
Yes.
Russia would owe it big time. Russia would give China. What does China need more than anything else? Energy. What's Russia got more than anything else? Energy. So
Economically, they do trade 10 times the amount with the US and the UK than they do with Russia. I mean, from an economic
yeah, but if they're getting it for free, suddenly that stacks up.
But also, I think
very
Erin's point
differently.
too, you know,
It's a
a
fair
weakened
point.
and distracted Russia is better for China than all in and let's look each other in the eye.
Right.